What's up, you guys? Welcome to Stieg Nation DIY. I'm Johnny Stieg, and today we're going to be working on my 2004 RM125. As you can see, I've gone with the brand new Polysport Restyle kit. Kind of give it an updated look, bring it more into the new era of motocross bikes, the new look. But as you can see, I've got this ugly yellow tank on here. Of course, you know, back when Suzuki made this bike, they probably weren't thinking people were going to be changing the total look and color of their bikes. So today we're going to fix that. We're going to dye the tank black. Stay tuned. Let's get it done. All right, well, let's get to it. So you may be wondering, why are you going to dye this thing black? Why don't you just paint it? Why don't you just get some graphics? Well, I got graphics, but they're gray. So putting them on top of yellow, it's gonna still stand out pretty bad. Why don't I paint it? Well, paint tends to bubble really bad when you paint a gas tank because gas is gonna permeate through the plastic. And also if you scratch it or something, you're gonna get a big yellow scratch underneath that black paint. The reason for dyeing is it actually penetrates into the plastics pretty good. So if you do get a scratch, it's gonna be a black scratch. It's just gonna hold up a lot better. As far as longevity, I'm not sure. We're gonna find out. Let's see. So anytime you're working with dyes and chemicals and all that kind of stuff, you really wanna take safety into consideration. So get yourself a nice pair of safety glasses, and then obviously you're not gonna wanna dye your hands because this is gonna, anything this touches, it's gonna dye. So I got myself a nice pair of old dishwashing gloves. And then over here, this is what I'm gonna be dyeing in. This is a stainless steel stock pot that I got at Costco. As you can see, I got it up to a rolling boil. I've got a couple of immersion heaters that I got off of Amazon in there. And so now that it's boiling, we're gonna go ahead and start adding stuff to it. What we got is the RIT Pro Line dye. This is kind of what everyone says works the best. Yes, it's a little bit more pricey than the other stuff, but it works really good. Once you've mixed your dye in, you're gonna actually add, for every pound of RIT dye, you're gonna do a cup of salt. So we got a measuring cup for our salt here. And then we're gonna add a cup of vinegar for every pound. So I have my measuring device for my vinegar for liquids. And then when that's all done, you're gonna actually add a tablespoon of liquid dishwash detergent. And that's just gonna help the quality of the water while the dye is doing its thing. All right, guys, so as you can see, I've added the dye, and I'm telling you, this stuff is black, so be careful. Don't wear good clothes. Don't do anything that don't get anything near that you don't want to turn black, because this stuff is intense. Even just like the wind blowing the condensation and the dye turn the sides of the tank all black. So anyway, stir it up really good. I'm using just an old piece of aluminum. And then we can add our salt, add our detergent, add our vinegar. So I'm not using anything fancy. I'm just using this merchant iodized salt. And so I have 2 1-pound packets of dye. So I'm gonna use 4 cups of the salt, and this is gonna just raise the boiling point of the water. And of course I'm using half cup measuring, so I'm gonna do 4. All right, for my vinegar, this is our acid. This is gonna help penetrate the material. So this is just white distilled vinegar, nothing fancy here. Got my measuring cup. And of course, like I said, I've got 2, that's about a cup there. I got 2 pounds of dye. So I'll do 2 cups of vinegar. There's 1. I mean, this is just approximate. You don't have to be perfect. Boom, 1 and 2. Now we got our vinegar all mixed in. And lastly, you want to use just a teaspoon per pound of dishwash detergent. Don't mistake this for dishwashing soap. If you use soap, you're going to get a bunch of suds. So use dishwash detergent And I just went and got this Smartly stuff. It's the cheapest thing I could find. And 2. So what this is going to help do is depolarize the water, just so that it helps react with the dye and your plastic material. So now I've got it all together. I'm just going to stir this really good for a little while, make sure everything's dissolved properly. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and drop in the gas tank. Okay, now it's time for the gas tank. So before I dip this in there, I just want you to see, I took out the petcock to let the air flow in, because you're going to want the dye material solution to get up inside your tank. So leave the cap off the top, leave the petcock out, and that way it allows the solution to flow up inside the tank, and that way you don't overflow your solution here. So find the best way that it's going to dip in here, and then slowly just work it down. This is going to take a little while because it's got to flow up inside your tank. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear it flowing in there. Like I said, you push it down all the way. That could overflow. You'll get it all over your stuff, your driveway, whatever you have it on. I have it sitting on top of this plastic creeper, and that way kind of helps insulate the bucket from the ground, keep it a little hotter. Don't want to lose all my heat through the driveway here. Of course, it's not going to go all the way in. It's only going to go in about halfway, and I'm going to have to pull those immersion heaters to get them out of the way so it goes in further. But then after about an hour, I'll come back out, I'll flip it over, and then we'll do the other side. All right, guys, so it's been about a half an hour. I'm just going to pull up, you got dye everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and pull the tank out of the bath here, and we're just going to see how it looks. And careful when you pull it out of here, because you are going to make a mess while the dye drips all over the place. And so far, the areas of the tank that were underwater look pretty good. We don't want these, it's hot. Careful when you pull it out of here. Remember, you got to let it drain out the bottom, so don't just wing it out of there. Let the dye kind of take its time, flow out. Careful not to burn yourself. It's hot water. She's hot, but she's black. Just letting all this water drain out of the petcock out of the bottom of the tank before I flip it over. Be a good idea to wear some nice leather gloves or something underneath your rubber here to just help keep from getting burnt. All right, well, the color is pretty good, honestly. Once that cleans up, I bet you it'll look real nice. So what I'm gonna do now, without trying to make a mess, I'm gonna flip it over. We're gonna get the other side down. We're gonna let the other side soak for about a half an hour. Well, the tank looks pretty good. There's a little bit of, we'll have to see once we clean it up. There's kind of some interesting looking stuff going on here, but I mean, as far as the color goes, she's definitely black. So that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and try and get these things down a little further here. Okay, now we'll go for another half an hour or so, and then we'll pull the tank out and we'll give it a good cleaning. Overall, so far, I'm actually really happy with how that looks. The color is, I mean, it's black everywhere where it matters, where you're gonna see it. Yeah, pretty stoked. Cool. Well, like I said, we'll let this sit for another half an hour. We'll come back and we'll take a look at it. All right, well, it's been about 30 to 40 minutes since I last flipped this. Let's pull it out of here. Right there, that little spot you can see on the top, that's where there was some little pads, and I didn't have it have those removed when I had flipped it the first time. But let's have a look, see? Make sure we pour it all out of there. It's black. There's no doubt about that. So now, let's really make sure all the dye drips out of it. There she goes. There's a little bit of buildup of some dye on areas, but overall, the tank is dyed black. Now, once it gets back down to about room temperature or so, maybe I'll flip it over and do this side one more time while it's still trying to get the bottoms coated better. But we'll clean it up, get it back to room temp. We'll clean it, and we'll see how the dye job came out. All right, guys, we'll check it out. Here it is. So, pulled the tank up, got it cleaned up really good. And, I mean, honestly, that looks so much better than the yellow tank. Of course, I'm going to change the seat cover, and then I got to put my graphics on. But, I mean, the tank came out perfect. It's super black. I don't know how it's going to last over time, but, I mean, you're seeing it for yourself. Thing looks awesome. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching my very first YouTube DIY how-to video. There's going to be plenty more where this came from, and not only that, but really fun, exciting activities. We got Harleys, we got razors, jet skis. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff, so stay tuned, and thank you again.